1. Why is everyone obsessed with protein? BU Nutrition Expert answers. 2. The hidden dangers of high-protein diets on heart health. 3. The protein paradox, why you might be overdoing it. 1. Why is everyone obsessed with protein? BU Nutrition Expert answers. Protein mania, why is everyone so fixated on this nutrient? A BU Nutrition Expert weighs in ***. If you've stepped into a grocery store recently, you might have noticed something peculiar. Cereal, once a staple of children's breakfast, is now boasting about being packed with protein. Even the checkout line's small refrigerators, designed to tempt shoppers with last-minute impulse buys, are now stocked with drinks like muscle milk, containing a whopping 40 grams of protein. The snack aisle, once the domain of chips and treats, hasn't escaped the trend either. New brands of so-called protein chips proudly offer 18 grams of protein in every nacho dash, ranch dash, and chili lime flavored serving. Under the bright fluorescent lights of grocery stores nationwide, protein has become the star of the show. It's always something, says Joan Selgie Blake, a clinical professor of nutrition at Boston University's Sargent College of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, with a tone of resignation. First, it was calories, everyone was counting calories. Then it was low carb, followed by no added sugar in the diet. There's always a trend that gets people talking. But here's where it gets interesting. Selgie Blake believes this protein trend might just stick around. Protein, an essential macronutrient, is a fundamental building block of the body. It's found in muscles, bones, skin, hair, and virtually every other body part or tissue. According to the National Institutes of Health, proteins are critical to most of the work done by cells and are required for the structure, function, and regulation of the body's tissues and organs. Protein has always been a crucial part of a balanced diet. But the recent spotlight on it, from social media influencers to food marketing tactics, seems to coincide with the introduction of specific weight loss medications like Wegovy, Selgie Blake notes. Once a preoccupation among bodybuilders, protein intake is now especially important for the millions of Americans taking semaglutide weight loss drugs. These drugs can drastically reduce appetite and often cause intense nausea, making food less appealing. So, this isn't just a passing fad. There are now specific groups of people who need to ensure they're getting enough protein throughout the day. For most people without specific health or diet needs, however, getting enough protein just isn't something to worry about, Selgie Blake says. Many foods that people already eat regularly, meat, eggs, grains, seafood, beans, tofu, yogurt, milk, contain protein. Eating enough protein helps your muscles rebuild and increases the feeling of fullness after each meal. The National Academy of Medicine recommends that adults get a minimum of 0.8 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight per day. So, for a 140-pound person, that means about 50 grams of protein each day. For a 200-pound person, that means about 70 grams of protein each day. But here's where it gets controversial. Selgie Blake warns that an intense focus on one macronutrient can disrupt the balance of a healthy diet. Let's talk about the carnivore diet, she says. That's a diet heavily based on animal protein. There have been instances where people are eating just meat and developing scurvy because they're not having any fruits or vegetables. Obviously, that's extreme, but it does happen. The best food advice, though it might sound boring, is to eat a variety of foods, including nutritious fruits and vegetables, Selgie Blake advises. So, what do you think? Is the protein craze just a fad, or is it here to stay? And how do you balance your protein intake with other essential nutrients? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 2. The hidden dangers of high-protein diets on heart health. Imagine this: your favorite steak and potatoes dinner might be doing more harm than good, especially if you're consuming too much protein. A recent study has sparked a heated debate by suggesting that high-protein diets, particularly those where protein makes up more than 22% of your daily caloric intake, could be linked to serious heart health issues. But here's where it gets controversial: not all experts are on board with this conclusion. The study, conducted by researchers at the University of Pittsburgh, found that excessive protein intake, especially from animal sources like meat and eggs, can activate a process called mTOR signaling in macrophages. These are key immune cells that play a role in the formation of arterial plaque, a condition known as atherosclerosis. This hardening of the arteries can lead to significant heart problems over time. The culprit? An amino acid called leucine, which is abundant in animal-based proteins. Dr. Babak Razoni, the lead author of the study, explained that consuming meals where protein accounts for about 22% of the total calories is the threshold at which the risk starts to increase. The findings were published in the journal Nature Metabolism, but they've already stirred up some disagreement in the scientific community. For instance, a 2020 study by Razoni's own team had previously linked high-protein diets to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. However, a larger 2023 human study found no significant difference in cardiovascular outcomes between high-protein and standard protein diets. So, what's the truth? Dr. Stephen Tang, a cardiologist who was not involved in the research, has his reservations. He believes the study was too small to draw definitive conclusions. However, he does acknowledge that it adds to the growing body of evidence suggesting that heart specialists are increasingly favoring plant-forward diets. "I wouldn't change my approach based on this study alone," Tang told Medical News Today. But it does reinforce the idea that high-protein diets, especially those heavy in animal protein, may not be the best choice for heart health. And this is the part most people miss: the quality of protein matters just as much as the quantity. A 1984 study found that women who consumed more plant-based proteins, such as those found in bread, vegetables, fruits, nuts, beans, and pasta, were 46% more likely to age healthily. In contrast, those who relied more on animal proteins were 6% less likely to remain healthy as they aged. Current dietary guidelines recommend that protein should make up 10 to 35% of your daily calories, with most adults needing about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, roughly 11% of energy. The American Heart Association also emphasizes the importance of choosing plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish rich in omega-3s, while limiting red and processed meats and saturated fats. Harvard researchers have also weighed in, noting that while excessive protein isn't inherently harmful, relying too heavily on animal protein can increase cholesterol levels and mortality risk compared to plant protein. So, what's the takeaway? Should you ditch the steak and opt for a plant-based meal instead? The jury is still out, but one thing is clear: balancing your protein intake and focusing on plant-based sources might be the key to a healthier heart. But here's the million-dollar question: are you willing to make the switch, or do you think the benefits of a high-protein diet outweigh the risks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. 3. The protein paradox: why you might be overdoing it. Imagine a world where protein is hailed as the ultimate hero of nutrition, overshadowing other vital nutrients. Yet, while it's true that protein plays an essential role in our diets, could we be overemphasizing its importance to the point of misinformation? Let's dive into this topic and uncover what you need to know about protein, its real benefits, potential drawbacks, and how to make smarter choices when incorporating it into your lifestyle. Americans have long held protein in high regard, often placing it above other macronutrients like carbohydrates and fats. This preference hasn't gone unnoticed by food and beverage (F&B) brands either. In fact, major retailers like Kroger are banking on this trend with ambitious product launches. For example, Kroger recently announced plans to introduce 80 new items under its Private Selection and Simple Truth labels, many of which focus heavily on protein pack offerings. Speaking during a presentation to financial analysts on June 20, Kroger chairman and interim CEO Ron Sargent highlighted protein as one of the biggest customer trends of the year. These products span everything from bars and powders to shakes, he explained, emphasizing their alignment with natural and organic branding that shoppers trust. But here's where it gets interesting. Sargent also pointed out that these innovations aim to cater to health-conscious consumers, particularly those using GLP-1 medications, who frequently seek protein-rich foods to support their wellness goals. While the spotlight remains firmly fixed on protein, not everyone agrees that more is better. Many registered dietitians and nutrition experts argue that individuals living in developed countries typically consume adequate, or even excessive, amounts of protein through balanced diets rich in whole foods. According to guidelines set by the World Health Organization, healthy adults should aim for approximately 0.4 grams of protein per pound of body weight daily. To put this into context, someone weighing 165 pounds would require around 60 grams of protein each day, a target easily met without relying on supplements or fortified products. But wait, there's another layer to consider. True protein deficiencies are rare among people eating varied diets in industrialized nations. Instead, such deficiencies tend to occur primarily in malnourished populations within developing regions. Even plant-based eaters, who statistically consume less protein than meat eaters, generally meet their needs thanks to the wide variety of nutrient-dense options available today. So why does the hype persist? And this is the part most people miss. Many protein-enriched products come loaded with artificial additives and ultra-processed ingredients, potentially negating any supposed health benefits. So, if protein bars and powders aren't necessarily the answer, then what is? Lisa Tester, MS, Chief Nutrition Officer at Raw Generation, advocates for sourcing protein directly from raw, whole foods instead. Here's her take on some top contenders. Dark, leafy greens *. Surprisingly, dark greens are one of the best yet most overlooked sources of usable protein, iron, and calcium, Tester shared. For plant-based eaters especially, including plenty of dark greens is non-negotiable. Blending them into smoothies eliminates the need for synthetic protein powders altogether. She further explained that synthetic powders isolate nutrients, whereas leafy greens deliver complete nutrition, complete with fiber, water, and other beneficial compounds. Additionally, these powders can sometimes overwhelm the liver and kidneys due to their concentrated protein levels. Nuts and seeds *. When consumed in moderation, raw nuts and seeds provide excellent sources of both protein and healthy fats, Tester noted. However, she cautioned against overeating them, recommending blending them into dressings or nut milk bases for smoothies instead. By doing so, you can avoid excess calories while still reaping the nutritional rewards. Case in point, Raw Generation's Protein Boost offers 10 grams of protein derived solely from whole foods. Beans and legumes *. This category includes chickpeas, lentils, edamame, and traditional beans, Tester said. While some individuals struggle to digest legumes comfortably, blending them into dips like hummus can break down fibers, making digestion easier and reducing issues like bloating and gas. Beans remain an incredibly nutritious option packed with plant-based protein. Now, let's stir the pot a bit. Is it possible that our obsession with protein has led us astray from focusing on overall dietary balance? Could we be overlooking the value of other critical nutrients, such as healthy fats and complex carbs? Or do you believe protein deserves its pedestal in modern nutrition conversations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear where you stand on this debate.